I've just discovered something very interesting about myself. I'm a frickin' genius. let me explain. So, Sports Illustrated's Andy Benoit was quoted recently, and when I read the quote, I'm like, oh, that makes all kinds of sense. Let me explain. I'll do so coming up next in this episode of the VO Heroes podcast. So in another episode of this podcast, I've talked about, for example, why I use Audacity. And the reason is because it's so simple and direct and perfect for what we do. I've talked about other things that I've chosen to use, like my microphone, the AT2020 USB Plus. It's very simple, it's very powerful, it's very direct, it's high quality. And I went back through a number of my episodes, and I realized that a whole bunch of them were about cutting out unnecessary stuff and just using things that were direct and simple and effective without gilding the lily, right? So then I find out that Andy Benoit, which is how he pronounces his name, Benoit, from Sports Illustrated, he's quoted as saying this: most geniuses, especially those who lead others, prosper not by deconstructing intricate complexities, but by exploiting unrecognized simplicities. Boom. That was like really powerful to me because I've noticed throughout my life that I love taking something and multiplying its force, right? Being a force multiplier. If you can do this, do it once and then do it again over and over and over again, maybe expand on it. And that's like kind of adding to it as opposed to subtracting from it. But the other thing that I've noticed is that I'll find a process and I'll cut out the things that I don't need about the process, right? I love finding ways to use Google Sheets or Excel that make it easier for me in the long run, exploiting the simplicities of it. And in that other episode where I talked about Audacity, when I saw this quote, I realized, oh, that's why I love Audacity, because it exploits unrecognized simplicities, and why my stair-step method works so well for me and for my students, because there's this really simple thing that Audacity does, and I can exploit that for the stair-step method. So, I think in our lives, we don't have enough time to do everything that we want to do. I've got a bucket list that's way too long. I haven't found a single app that can contain all of the things that I want to do before I leave this earth. And that means that I'd like to do things as simply and direct and as easily as possible. I don't want to make it more complicated than it needs to be. And so according to Andy Benoit, I'm a genius. I'm a frickin' genius. So just so you know, that's my new title. I used to use actor, voice talent, storytelling coach, and technologist. Forget it. David H. Lawrence the 17th, frickin' genius. Anyway, I wonder about you. Do you ever find yourself wanting to simplify the things in life, to find the direct path as opposed to the complicated but mastering, able to be mastered path if you spend enough time practicing it, right? Isn't it easier to do things? I don't want to guide you to your answer, but I'd love to know your answer below. How do you find yourself operating in the world? With unnecessary, complications, or with undiscovered simplicities? Tell me. I'd love to know. Comments below, please do that. I'm David H. Lawrence the 17th. I thank you so much for watching and for listening to the VO Heroes podcast.